Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Retirement Cafe podcast, which is brought to you by retirement planning specialists, MFB Wealth Management. Now, you may have heard of the old adage, from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. But is it really true? I think actually in Yorkshire, they say clogs to clogs in 3 generations. But anyway, research in America suggests that inherited wealth rarely endures. By the 2nd generation, it found that 70% of family fortunes have been depleted. By the 3rd generation, the figure was 90%. So maybe the old adage is true. Here to chat to me about why this is the case and how to transfer wealth successfully is Lisa Snyder of the Institute for Preparing Heirs from across the Atlantic in California. Welcome to the podcast, Lisa.
Justin, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, I figure that the weather in California might be a bit more attractive than it is here in Bournemouth in the UK at the moment. It's getting pretty chilly this evening, but
it is much better. We've had a lot of sun and a lot of nice weather.
I bet you have. Lisa, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move on to what's the aim of Institute of Preparing Heirs, but how have you got involved in this, and what's your background?
I began my career back in the 90s as an estate planning attorney. And so my focus throughout my career has been helping clients preserve their wealth and transfer it. So I practiced law for a while. I've worked for insurance companies. I've worked in wealth management companies. I've worked in banks. And all of my efforts have been spent working with clients, helping them pass wealth to their children. But my primary focus over the years, which is really the focus of financial services in general, is let's save taxes and let's be very efficient with our investments. And that was my thought process going on throughout my career. But in 2015, my career path shifted, and I went to a training put on by the Institute for Preparing Heirs. Okay. And I went into it because several people I worked with said, oh, you should go to this. You'll love it. It's exactly what you do. And I went, and it really changed my thought process forever on working with clients. Because everything that we do in financial services tends to be focused on preparing the assets. How can we make them more efficient? How can we structure them in ways that they pass to our heirs, and they're structured so that there's the most tax savings and they're potentially easy to use. So when going to IPH's training, I found that there's something else. And this is exactly why the Institute was founded. There was a void in financial services where advisors weren't really thinking about what are we doing for families. We're very tuned into preparing assets, but nobody's preparing the heirs. So if you think about estate planning, tax planning, and financial planning, those are all absolutely fundamental to wealth transfer. But passing wealth and preparing heirs to receive it is also fundamental to successful wealth transfer. So that's really the aim of the Institute. And just in really the last few weeks, I have come to the Institute, and I am now managing partner and chief learning officer.
Wow. Okay.
So it's been an interesting journey, but that fateful day when I went to the training in 2015 has really brought me to this point and changed my worldview really for what I've been doing for the last several years with advisors and clients.
Great. Great. So Lisa, at the beginning, I mentioned some statistics, which I think are kind of quite similar possibly to the UK. Well, my experience in the UK as well about, wealth doesn't transfer well and it disappears pretty quickly. And often, even to the frustration of I suppose, living parents. Some of my clients have passed on wealth whilst they're alive, and get a little frustrated sometimes by how it's been spent. Why do you think this is?
First and foremost, I think that when we engage in planning, we tend to engage on what we do as the first generation. We focus on it. So I create the documents, and my expectation is those documents are going to suit my family. And oftentimes we think that those documents are going to be substitute for conversations that we don't want to have, that perhaps they're awkward. So when we're gone, the documents will take care of it. And a lot of times those documents that we have, they don't reflect us and our family. What I find is this: I sit with clients, talk about the planning they've done, And it often goes, well, I went to the attorney and we talked about what I was going to do. And I didn't really know. So I said, what do people like me do? And the attorney said, this is what people like you do. Now, what is like you based on? It's based on your balance sheet and it's based on your net worth.
Mm.
So the plan that you have and I have may be the same based on our net worth, but we may need vastly different plans based on our own goals, values, and aspirations.
Yeah.
So people are doing their planning. They're not getting advice that matches up with those things because nobody's asking them those questions.
And how, I mean, the people you've come across and the people that you've helped advise, etc. What are the, where do they really go wrong, do you think? I mean, what are the, what are the things that they should really think about, I suppose? Or maybe you give some experiences of things where you've gone, oh, if only they'd sought some advice or had a proper conversation about that.
Well, there are plenty of places where that happens. And let's kind of go back to the challenges that we talked about. There are really 3 reasons that wealth has difficulty surviving. And you gave the statistics, 70%, 90%, and shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. So let's back up for a minute and talk about shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. Yes, I understood too that it came from the north of England. I don't know if that credit goes there all the time. And shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves come from Andrew Carnegie. So Scottish born, American. It's not in anything that he's written, but that's how it comes down. What's interesting though, Justin, is it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah.
So it's translated in multiple countries. In Japan, rice patties to rice patties in 3 generations.
Right.
In Italian, from the stables to the stars and back to the stables in 3 generations.
Ah.
And in Brazil, it's rich father, noble son, and poor grandson. It's not confined to our part of the world. It's everywhere. And the reasons that I have seen for wealth not surviving really fall into 3 categories. And research shows this as well. First and foremost is the money's unexpected, the heirs are unprepared, and the heirs don't really understand the purpose of the money. So let me go through each of these and explain a little bit more. The money's unexpected. If you don't know something's coming, it's not necessarily a good thing. It's a surprise. And if you're not having conversations about your wealth with your family and they're not prepared for it, lots of bad things can happen. And I've seen that on many occasions where a family inherits money, mom and dad have passed away, and one child says, that's not what I thought was going to happen. I thought that we were all going to share equally. Why did you get more? I thought I was going to be trustee. Why did dad choose you to be the trustee? Why are you my trustee and you're your own trustee? And so it goes on, this speculation, and speculation tends to lead to litigation. And that's how in many cases, not only does the family wealth get lost, but the family unity gets lost. So when we talk about a successful wealth transfer, it's not only the ability of the heirs to receive wealth and manage it in ways to develop lifetime goals, but it's also that it is received and managed in ways that help maintain family unity. So nobody wants to be surprised. So trust and communication is a big part of it. What is coming? Have that open forum for communication. And I don't know about you, but the best relationships I have are built on good communication. And trust is another piece that comes along with that. There are really 3 assessments of trust: reliability, sincerity, and competence. So is somebody reliable? Are they going to do what they say they're going to do? Are they sincere? Do they mean what they say?
Yeah.
And are they competent? Are they able to do it? So when a client says, I really don't trust my kids, what does that mean? And we walk through that and break that down. And it varies. It could be one, it could be all of those things, but inevitably it comes down to something. And if we can address those issues before they pass, if they can hear it from the lips of the first generation, it's such an easier transition than if they're sitting there in the dark. And that's what I tell people too, that don't leave your kids in the dark. Think of it like a dimmer switch. You can slowly reveal information. You may never get to the dollar amounts, and you probably won't get to where the lights are completely on, but don't leave them in the dark.
Okay.
The next piece of that is being unprepared. So let me ask you, you have lottery in the UK, correct?
Yeah, we do.
How do lottery winners typically fare financially after 3-5 years have gone by?
I understand they spend it pretty quickly, and it disappears, and they end up back where they started from.
That's the same experience we have here. And it's interesting because I've never heard a lottery winner say, oh, I've prepared my whole life for this. I was looking forward to this and I knew it was coming. And when it came, I was completely prepared, right? Nobody ever says that. People are scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. So if we don't tell our children and our grandchildren that something's coming, whether they know the dollar amount or not, how are they ever going to be prepared for it?
Mm.
And being able to share that with them, being able to have conversations about what is it that you need to know. One thing I find is this: people say, well, I don't want to tell my kids about it, or somebody will say, well, my kids aren't able to handle it. And I think that there needs to be some exploration of what is it they need to know on a basic level. I don't think they need to be rocket scientists to do this. What I think is we need to help our children and our grandchildren be good consumers of professional advice. They don't necessarily need to know how the watch is built, but they need to know the watchmaker, and they need to be able to ask good questions to know if that watchmaker is doing his or her job.
Yeah.
And the other thing I find is this: people want to be engaged at different levels. So just because I inherit wealth from my family doesn't mean that I want to go into and be responsible for the investing. I don't necessarily want to have day-to-day oversight of it. I need to decide, what is it that I want to do? How do I want to engage? So at the Institute, we talk about it this way. Think of it like a car. Do you want to build the car? Do you want to drive the car? Or do you want to be driven? Now, if you're under 30, you probably want to be driven, because it seems that nobody wants their licenses anymore. But the point is, we have to really talk to our children and our grandchildren and understand, how is it that they want to be involved in this? And it may not be the same way that we want to be involved. And then the third piece has to do with the purpose of it. And this idea that if there's no family mission statement, that wealth gets lost. What do I mean by family mission statement? I'll tell you a story. I worked with a gentleman in New York, and he is in his 40s now. He came to the country about 20 years or so ago. And he was telling me that he was having issues because the attorneys and the trust officers only wanted to talk about the provisions of the trust. What is the language? How are we going to structure it? And he was frustrated by that. And I said, what is it you want to talk about? He said, I want to talk about my family. I said, well, tell me about your family. And he has 2 children, younger children. What the interesting part of the story was that he immigrated to this country about 20 years ago. And he said, one of my jobs was at a photomat. I don't know if you had photomats. No. Photomat was essentially, it was an outdoor, almost like a hut, where you would drive up to it and you would drop film off from your camera, back when we had films or cameras with film, and you'd have your pictures developed, and then you'd drive back and you'd pick it up.
Okay.
So the interesting part was this: he worked at that photomat. He made $3.35 an hour. He was robbed at gunpoint twice. And I said, wow, that's an important story for your family to know. And he said, why? I said, because it reflects who you are. And you've talked about how 100 years from now, you want your family to know how this money was made and the purpose of it. I said, so what you're looking for is a family mission statement. It's a guidepost for your family and for your advisors generations to come. And it should articulate your core family values and identify the priorities for the use of your family wealth. He's like, that is exactly what I want. So we set about working on that. And it's the values piece, I find, Justin, that is so difficult to transfer, because those values, they don't come through in your estate planning documents.
No. By the way, how did he make his money? Because he didn't make it at $3.35 an hour.
He did not. He has built up he's built up quite a real estate business in New York City. So you can imagine how quickly the dollars grew.
Good on him. So, there is the the clients that I advise, there's quite a few, what I call very much like your client there, quite driven, self-started, maybe have even gone bankrupt in their earlier years, but restarted entrepreneurial type of people, and they've done well, and possibly maybe those family companies are still doing well. And they get frustrated a little bit about the next generation and that they don't have the same values. And we read about in the papers, don't we? Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Sting. They've all talked about, do we leave too much money, to our heirs? Will we rob them of their vitality, I suppose, or what's your thoughts on that? Should they disinherit them?
I don't necessarily think they should disinherit them. And what I've found in commentary from those people is that a bit of how much is enough. And you look at Warren Buffett as a perfect example. You look at the life that he lives, and he lives a very modest lifestyle. And I don't think he believes anybody in his family needs to live an extravagant lifestyle. At the same time, though, I think he wants to prepare them and educate them for them to go out to the world and be productive.
Yeah.
And I kind of think of it this way. You can have this roaring fire of family wealth. And when your beneficiaries, your heirs, are ready to go out in the world, if you hand them a burning log, it's going to last so long. It will burn out eventually. They may burn themselves, but they'll be left with nothing. However, if you prepare them, you send them out with a burning log, but you also give them flint and kindling, and you show them how to use it. When their log burns out, they can create more, and they can pass that knowledge forward. And I think that when you talk to these very successful individuals, they are thinking forward in that we want productive people in our families. Successful transfer is really about being able to use that wealth to develop lifetime goals and to maintain family unity.
Yeah.
And going back to shirt sleeves, in that third generation, why is it that money is lost in that third generation? And I think a lot of it is because that third generation is really not in touch with what it took to make that money. They didn't see the struggle.
No.
They didn't know that a rent check was bounced or that there was no money for groceries this week. They haven't lived that life. I mean, if you think about the world today, so many of us live in tremendous abundance.
Yeah.
So it's hard for people to understand that and have a respect for that. And so I think family history is a really big deal for families. I did a family meeting a couple months ago, and at the meeting, the family talked about, mom and dad, about the family business, and they had sold the business.
Right.
And they received quite a bit from the sale, but it was the first time that we'd gather with their adult children who were in their 40s, whose perspective was, well, dad wasn't around, he was always working. And when we talked about it, and the mom and dad revealed that there were at least 2 times where they almost lost the company, and that everything that they had wouldn't have been there if they hadn't survived that. That was an important moment for that family.
Yeah.
Family history is something that I think we can do a better job of sharing. I mean, certainly when you're in a public family, you can look your own family history up on the internet.
Yeah.
But for our individual families, I think we lose touch with that. And so do we want to disinherit our children? No, I don't think it makes sense. But at the same time, decide what is it that they need and prepare them. I think the better they're prepared, then the more they're going to be able to go out and do.
So what does that preparation look like to you? Is that financial education? Is that, what are your thoughts around that?
A lot of different things that you can do to prepare your children. One of the things that we do in our training is we talk about 10 conversations all clients can have. And they're conversations that begin with family history, something that you as a family can sit down and do. And then they go to things maybe better facilitated by professional advisors. So future roles for family members and basic estate planning that you have done, to sit down with your family and say, these are the things that are going to happen. We have this estate. These are our advisors. You should know our attorney. You should know our CPA. You should know our insurance specialist. Opening the door so that your children and grandchildren can see into this. This is what's coming. These are the people. And then going into other areas where you can bring the family together and have discussions about, say, family charitable giving. Charitable giving is a big one.
Yeah.
This is a place where I think more families can get together. And by the way, I think most of these translate across different net worths and different balance sheets. I don't feel like any of these concepts are confined to the mega millionaires.
No.
And so when you think about charitable giving, I ask clients, so you have children, do you involve them in your giving? And they'll say, no, I haven't really. I said, why? Well, they're kind of young. And I say, well, you said your kids are 12 and 14. They know that you volunteer. What do you think about sitting down with them and saying, this year as a family, we're going to give away $1,000. Let's all work together and decide where we want to give it. Right now, each of us is going to have 25%. You're going to be able to decide where your $250 goes. Come back in a month and talk about where you want it to go and why. And then when the family gets back together, everybody shares their ideas. And maybe you and I, Justin, find out we really care about the same thing. Let's combine our money and it will do more for that particular charity or for that particular cause. So it's a way to get people together and not only share what's important to them, but it also goes back to certain family values. Not everybody gives money away. And I don't think you should have to give money away even if you can afford it. But for many families, values of gratitude, of giving, of generosity, of community, empathy, those are grounded in their families, and that leads to giving. So it's a really nice way to bring families together, and it's something they can always circle back to. I know families, they are scattered across the country and around the world, but once a year, they get together as a family, one, to see each other, but the purpose of that meeting is to give away money. They have a family foundation and they say, okay, everybody's going to get X dollars to do it. There's a family I work with, and when the children turn 18, then they get to be actively involved in that process.
Great.
So all kinds of areas where you can have conversations with your families, not only to educate them, but this idea of values and being able to pass those along. I can't really emphasize it enough. It's important. And I feel like that's the way that families are able to pass their wealth. And think about the definition of family wealth. It is not just financial wealth. It's your family name, your reputation, your health, your spirituality, your community influence, and of course, your family unity.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, that's been just wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa. That's really, really interesting. So what I'd like to do, if I may, is we'll provide. I know I think you've got a new website coming on stream very soon. So if people would like, if our listeners would like to find out more about the Institute for Preparing Heirs and all we've discussed today, we'll check out the show notes and we'll put all the website links of the new website and how they can get in contact with you, etc., if they want to find more information.
Okay.
Great. Well, I really do appreciate your time and getting up early to speak to me. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please do leave a review on iTunes as normal to help more people like you discover us. It really does help. You can subscribe via iTunes or your preferred podcast player so you never miss an episode. So this is Justin King from the Retirement Cafe, helping you feel more informed in your retirement. So I'd love to wish you all a very happy Christmas. I hope you have a fantastic time off and some time with family and friends. I'm looking forward to doing exactly that myself. So until next time, this is Justin King helping you feel more informed in your retirement.